its producer, host, and sponsors.
And now, Mike Parietti.
Thank you, Will.
Hello, everyone. It's Mike Parietti here. Thank you for tuning in. As you may know by now, I'm running for Congress in the newly drawn 17th District. I'm seeking the Democratic nomination. I'm a common sense, hands-on Democrat, and as a member of Congress, I will seek workable, balanced, practical solutions to our most pressing concerns, not only on the national level, but with a strong emphasis on the local level as well, and I'll get into that in a bit. I would try to reach out to legislators in Congress from all walks of life, from across the political landscape, across both aisles, to try and build consensus for our legislative package and to ensure that it passes and avoid any kind of gridlock. That would sort of be my role as a moderate centrist Democrat. I would also try to prevent our party from veering too far to the left, so that we don't hurt ourselves going into the 2024 presidential election. That's my candidacy in a nutshell. I just wanted to get that out. If you've heard enough, maybe some of you have, my website is mikesinthehouse.com. That's mikesinthehouse.com with an S. So mikesinthehouse.com. I'm using that as my website because I think that if I try to use Parietti for Congress, no one will be able to spell that or remember how to spell it. So it's mikesinthehouse.com. My petitions are on the homepage. The main purpose of this show right now is to try to ensure that I get the number of petition signatures I need to get on the ballot so that we will have a choice in the Democratic primary coming up on June 28th of this year. So if you go to the website, we've got it laid out so it'll be as easy as possible for you. I'll get into that more in the future, but there's two petitions. One is called the Easy Petition. It's a quick and easy petition that you can use to sign the petition. You simply need to find another Democrat who will cross-witness the petition with you. We also have a regular petition if you want to print out that petition and get more than a few signatures from your friends, families, neighbors, and then get them mailed into me. That would be a big help. So if you want a choice in the Democratic primary, please go to mikesinthehouse.com and print out my petitions. All right. Let me talk about myself very briefly. I was born and raised here in Rockland. Went to SUFFERN High School. I was a wrestler in the local public school athletic leagues. I was an Eagle Scout. From there, I went on to the United States Military Academy at West Point, where I was also the captain of the Army wrestling team. My senior year, I was a member of the team all 4 years. And I graduated in 1984, was commissioned as a second lieutenant. I served my country in the 10th Mountain Division, primarily. I was also Airborne Ranger qualified, and I served in a number of different capacities as a platoon leader, an executive officer, an acting commander. But I also retired as a captain after I did my commitment of about 5 years. And following that, I did do some time in the National Guard, but I went on to have a career in the pharmaceutical industry, in the biotechnology industry, and along the way, I picked up a master's of biotechnology from Penn State University. That's sort of my quick bio. The one really important thing I should add to all of that is about 20 years ago, in the middle of all of that, I returned here to Ramapo, and I was drawn into the emerging political struggle between the Hasidic community and the secular community, which was starting in Ramapo around that time. It's a long story. I got involved in a petition drive to try to force a referendum on how the town board was elected, and I've been involved ever since. I was one of the original founders of Preserve Ramapo, Preserve Rockland. I've run for office several times. I've been involved in a number of pro se legal actions to force referendum and get candidates on the ballot. I've also worked hard many times over the years to recruit and elect people to the Rockland County Democratic Committee, so we would have our fair share of representation on that. So that's what brings me to where I am now. And so some people may ask me, why are you running at this point in time? And one thing I want to say quickly is I know there are some people that want to call in to the show, and that's fine. We're going to try to take some calls later in the show. I'll also say that I have a contact form on the website, mikesinthehouse.com, where you can click contact, and you can, if you have a question, you can type your question in. All right. The reason I'm running is New York State lost a congressional district in the last census count. All right, so we had to redraw the entire congressional map in New York State. I had no intention of running until I saw the way the new 17th district was reconfigured. It is a completely different district than it was before. It used to be dominated by a large part of Westchester attached to Rockland County. Now it's just a blob of Westchester, all of Rockland County, a large part of Orange County that runs sort of along the western Jersey border boundary of Orange County, which includes towns like Monroe, Chester, Warwick, all the way up to Port Jervis, and it includes the entire county, all of Sullivan County. So it's a completely different district. The one interesting thing about this district is that the Orange County portion does not include Curious Joel. So when I looked at this district, I realized right away this is a district that someone could win without the support of the Hasidic leaders and their block vote. And to me that was significant, because I think what we desperately need is a congressman who will go down to Washington and talk openly, frankly, and freely about the things that are going on up here in Rockland County, because this is something we have not had in the past. Our leaders in Washington need to be aware of many of these burning issues that are arising as a result of the clash of cultures between the Hasidic and the secular community. So that's why I'm running. It's one of the main reasons I'm running. I also think that as a moderate, centrist Democrat, common sense, hands-on person, that I am better positioned for victory in this district than the incumbent, Mondaire Jones, who is more progressive and off to the left. I think in order to assure victory in this district for the Democratic Party come November, we need someone who is more towards the center of the political spectrum. So that's essentially why I'm running. And I think that there are a number of issues that the incumbent Mondaire Jones simply will not address or take any real meaningful action on. And I'll talk about some of those real briefly. First of all, I think that we've got some serious issues with education in Rockland County and other areas in New York State, where we have large numbers of children that are attending private religious schools are not being taught a proper secular education as mandated by the state standards. The state requires that you teach a substantially equivalent secular curriculum to the public schools, and from all indications that's not being done. And some people say, oh, that's a local issue. It's not a local issue. It's a federal issue in the fact that a lot of federal dollars flow to these schools. And I would say, as a congressman, I would call for cutting off any funds to schools that do not pre-certify the fact that they're teaching the required secular curriculum. I know that Mondaire Jones is an issue he won't address or take any meaningful action on. I would call for a stop the flow of federal funds to schools that do not teach a proper curriculum. Two, we have an issue with housing discrimination. What we see is high-density, multifamily housing being built at a very high rate, particularly in Ramapo. And when the construction is completed and everyone moves in, it's perfectly obvious that this housing has been set aside for members of one religious sect or community. You can see this in Spring Valley and other places. And I think this is blatant housing discrimination. The majority of housing is being constructed for one community, but very little housing is being built for the secular community or people of color. That's a federal fair housing violation, and I think we need an investigation by the Justice Department, like they've done in Westchester. There's nothing new about that, to look at this and take some concrete action to ensure that the housing stock that's being built is more fairly distributed between the different communities of interest. That's another issue Mondaire Jones doesn't want to talk about, and he has taken no meaningful action on, despite the fact that the significant impact that's having on people in Ramapo who can't find housing. I also think that we have an issue with eligibility for Medicaid and other social benefits. I, as a congressman, Medicaid is a federal program. I would call for stricter criteria to qualify to be on Medicaid and other issues. The way it is now, essentially, you can prove on paper that you don't have any resources, kaboom, you can go right on Medicaid full bore for as many years as you want. And I think that that's something that's unsustainable. I think it should be based on your particular health situation or I just don't think that perfectly able-bodied, healthy men, the prime of their lives, should be on Medicaid for as long as they can prove that they don't have any resources on paper. That's another issue, I think, that is, it's unfair that people that are working so hard to make ends meet are then required to pitch in to pay for that. I mean, we have to pay for Medicaid. 25% of the cost is paid for out of our county taxes, and the remaining is out of our state taxes. So that's another big issue that I would talk about. Another issue is gerrymandering, the Rockland County legislature, and now the Assembly. The Rockland County legislature has been grotesquely gerrymandered to ensure that leaders in the Hasidic community have way more, a larger share of political power than they're entitled to, and people of color in the secular community are deprived of their fair share of representation. That's a federal voting rights issue that we need to bring attention to. There is a voting rights section in the U.S. Justice Department. As a congressman, I would be in contact with them and demand an investigation into the situation up here with gerrymandering. Everyone likes to talk about all the grotesque gerrymandering that goes on in Texas and North Carolina and Georgia and Mississippi, and it's true. There are some very serious issues down there where people of color are deprived of their fair share of representation. Well, the same thing is going on up here in Rockland County. You saw it with the Assembly. They just created 2 Hasidic/Republican safe assembly districts at the expense of the one assembly district, which was the 97th, that was African American heavy. It had a significant population of African Americans from Spring Valley and Nyack put together in one district. They sacrificed that district by separating Nyack and Spring Valley so that you could create a district that would be predominantly dominated by the Hasidic community in the 97th and the 98th, which has Curious Joe in it. Like I said, that's another federal voting rights issue that I think we should focus on. And I could go on and on and on. And, the question is, why does Mondaire Jones refuse to address these issues or take any meaningful action on these issues? And I think it's because he is pandering to get the Hasidic bloc vote in the election. And we all know the rules. If you want to get that vote, you can't talk about certain issues. And the sad thing here is that Mondaire doesn't even need that vote to win. This district could easily be won without the bloc vote. But he refuses to he refuses to risk doing anything that might cost him that vote, even though he doesn't need it. I think one recent example of this is yesterday he was with Senator Schumer, and they had a big press conference about the fact that $2 million has been set aside to build a fertility clinic at the Refuah Health Center, which is right near New Square in Muncie. And Chuck Schumer made some remark about to Mondaire Jones that we did this to cover you, or we've got you covered, which it implies to me that they're saying we got you this money to make sure that you will get the bloc vote in November. And my question is, Okay, $2 million for a fertility clinic in the Refuge Health Center, that's fine, but what about $2 million for some kind of a health center in downtown Spring Valley that would focus on diabetes or heart disease or elder care? I think we need a better allocation of resources between the different communities in Rockland and throughout this congressional district. And I think I would be very vocal about the fact that resources are not being allocated fairly. One other thing I'll talk about quick that's unique about my campaign is the fact that I will only take donations from people that live in the 17th district. One of my pet peeves for many years has been the corrosive effect that large donations coming from outside of congressional districts have on the whole political process. Because there are centers of affluence and political power on both the right and the left that pour money into these districts so that they can control the congressman for that district rather than the local people. And I think Mondaire is a perfect example of this. He has taken millions of dollars in donations from people from outside districts from all over the country. And I think, the other interesting thing about it is I went through all of his finances the last time he ran, and like I said, nearly $3 million poured into his campaign. I would say 90% of that money was spent outside of the district, and most of it's recycled back to political consultants of every stripe: media consultants, fundraising consultants, political consultants, strategy consultants, and very little money is spent here. The point is, I bring up that point because if you want a congressman that's going to be totally responsive to the people of the 17th district, then you should take a look at me, because I'm only going to take donations from people who live in the 17th district, and therefore I will answer directly to them and not to donors from outside the district. I think it really is important, because if you look at all the money that Mondaire has brought in and spent, at least as of last year when I looked at all of his stuff, very little money is spent here. To my knowledge, I don't think he's ever bought time on WRCR and had a show. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think he ever has. He's bringing in millions and he's not spending it locally. That's because the people who give him those donations are not local, and they don't really have an interest in local issues. And I think that also explains why Mondaire has been so hands-off and so aloof when it comes to some of the most burning issues that we face here in Rockland County and throughout the lower Hudson Valley. If I'm your congressman, I'm not going to be answering to anybody from outside the district. I'm going to be answering to you, and I will address all of these issues very vociferously and without fear in the Congress. All right, before we take some calls, let me just talk about my petitioning process really quick. In this era of COVID and crime, it's harder and harder to get out, and a lot of people, they don't want to get out and collect petitions for you because of these issues, or they're often afraid to open the door. So I've tried to make it as easy as possible for you to sign the petition. The one thing I should point out is that Mondaire Jones, every single one of the Democratic committees is carrying his petition. All right, so he has the full support of the party apparatus in gathering his petitions. I have to plan my entire petition drive on my own. And that's where you can help me. All right. If you go to my website, mikesinthehouse.com, that's mikesinthehouse.com with an S, you can see there, right on the homepage, there are buttons for different petitions. One is called the Easy Petition. This is a petition you can print out. It's essentially 2 petitions on 1 sheet of paper. And the point here is the petition does not have to be a full 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. It can be smaller than that. It can be half of a page. What I've done is I've taken 2 petitions that are each a half page in size and put them on 1 sheet of 8.5 by 11 paper. One is right side up, the other is upside down. And there's a instructional video on how to fill this petition out on the website. But essentially, you find another Democrat, be it your spouse or a family member, which I think is very often the case, and then the 2 of you can simply cross-witness each other's signatures on that 1 sheet of paper. It's very simple, very quick and easy, and then you can put it in the mail and ship it, drop it right in the mail, right back to me. So it's totally contactless. And I think that a lot of moderate, more centrist Democrats they're being left out of the whole petitioning process. So if you want to take matters into your own hands and act, you can go to my website, print out that petition, fill it out very quickly with a family member or a friend or a neighbor, and get it sent in. We also have regular petitions, like in the days of old. You just print out that petition. It's got 15 signature slots on it, and then you can go out and get, if you want to collect just a few or even more signatures from your family, if you have a bunch of people in your house that are registered Democrats, or your neighbors or friends, you can get their signature, and again, you can drop it in the mail. We've got about a little more than a week left of the petitioning process, so there's plenty of time to go to the website, print those petitions out, get some signatures, cross-witness the easy petition, drop it in the mail, and I'll get them in time to submit them with my petition volumes. All right, I guess that's it. I'm sure there's many other things I could continue to talk about, but are there any callers? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Good morning. You're on with Mike Parietti.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Hi.
My name is Gracie. Listen, I have 2 points, if I might. I think your platform is very good, and I wish you would be running maybe for a New York State Senate or New York State Assembly, because you are common sense and you're not an extremist. I hope you do get on the ballot, because I think you would get on, be the Democratic nominee. My husband interrupted me and broke my thought. But listen, basically why? Montel is basically completely bought in with the Mondaire, whatever his name is. My husband's correcting me, but you know who I mean. He's part of the squad with AOC and those 3 other extremists who their issue is changing the world order, of joining the one world order. If you look into it, you at least are common sense. And I'm a Republican, so I can't sign your petition, but I do really wish you the best of luck, because you have common sense. And the reason Mondaire isn't pushing Rockland issues is because his idea is a more global America. And that's the bottom line, as far as I'm concerned. Opinion, of course.
Okay, Gracie, thank you very much
For your call, I appreciate that. I'll respond to both points. One, first of all, I think Mondaire is clearly on the progressive left. No question about that. And I think that this new district that has been drawn is no longer on the progressive left. It has shifted to the political center of gravity of the new 17th district is more moderate, more centrist. So I'm not sure he's the best candidate for the Democratic Party to come November, because I'm sure the Republicans have every intention of trying to pick up the seat. There's a feeling it's going to be a big Republican turnout this year. So I'm not sure Mondaire is the best candidate for this district. I believe that I am much better positioned for victory in November as a common sense, hands-on moderate towards the middle of the political spectrum. Number one. Number two, in terms of running for state assembly, I'll tell you, it's a difficult proposition. I'm in the 98th Assembly District. It's dominated by Curious Joel. It's very hard to win that district without the support of the Hasidic bloc of vote, which I'm never going to get. Okay, I think we all realize that. So that's why it doesn't really make sense for me to run there. When I saw the new 17th district, I realized that this is a district that could be won without the support of the Hasidic leadership and their bloc vote. And so that's what has motivated me to run. I think the issues that we face here in Rockland they go from everywhere from the local to the state to the federal. You know, I've had some people say, "Oh, Mike, you can't just talk about these local issues." And to that, I simply say, that's right. I'm not going to talk about local issues. I'm going to address all issues at the national and the local level. I think the question is, why is Mondaire only focusing on the hot button national issues that you sort of see on CNN all the time? He's the one that needs to focus on all the issues. I will be perfectly willing to do that. But anyway, so thank you for your call. Got another call? Okay, sure.
Good morning. You're on with Mike Parietti.
Hi, good morning. A quick question for you. In these areas that you're talking about, there's a lot of housing violations, illegal housing. So, in these areas where there's illegal housing and, they talk about the violations on top of violations in the hundreds of thousands of dollars that aren't getting paid. They talk about it on Who Wants to Be a Volunteer.
Right.
They're illegally converted to multifamily. Why, or could you possibly implement some sort of punitive action where if you can seize a property for tax foreclosure, why can you not seize one for certain violations? Because it's flagrant. They're not paying them. It doesn't matter how much you fine these people who are making these. It's worse than scofflaws. They're not paying it. The fines do nothing because they're not enforced, and they owe. So maybe that should be a bill that, like a tax foreclosure. If you don't pay your taxes, they take the property.
Right.
If you're committing a felony offense, criminal action where you're putting lives at risk and you're not paying those fines, is that something that could possibly be an alternative?
Right.
And I'll listen off.
Okay, thank you very much for your question. Yeah, we have an abysmally horrible situation with illegal housing violations, particularly in Spring Valley, but throughout Ramapo and other places in the Hudson Valley as well. And I'm not exactly sure what could be done. It's more of a state issue than a federal issue, but one thing that I would do as a congressman, I would not be afraid to open my mouth about anything and everything, whether it be a state or federal issue. And I would leave no stone unturned in trying to come up with a way to deter or prevent, stop all these illegal housing violations. I know that we have some groups down here that are doing excellent work on this. You've got Coupon, you've got the legal housing task force, we've got Rosa, a lot of groups that are working this. I would do anything and everything I could in my power to help them. I know that Mondaire Jones has been very reluctant to meet with the members of these groups and to take any meaningful action. I would have absolutely no qualms whatsoever meeting with them whenever they wanted to meet and for how long ever they wanted to meet. I'm willing to sit down and talk to them and brainstorm and try to figure out what we can do. You have a fireman that died in a fire last year. Okay, how more serious issue is that? One of the residents died as well. So I would do whatever I could from the federal level. I'm a very creative person. Believe me, I will come up with some method of deterring or preventing these. And I appreciate your concern about those issues. Thank you very much.
We have another caller. Good morning. You're on with Mike Parietti.
Okay, well, first, I'd like to thank you so much for serving in service, okay? I can really appreciate somebody with your background, the military background, definitely, the military school, and that's great, okay? To me, it means more common sense, more person that can see both ends here, and that's great, okay? Regarding to Mr. Jones, okay, I agree with Gracie, okay? He is of the extreme left. He is part of the squad, which bodes very badly for this district here. This district as a whole is not an extreme district. Maybe some parts of Westchester, the former district, where, okay, maybe that's where got him in, okay, but the rest of us are far from it. On a personal note here, as a senior, for over a year, I was trying to talk to Mr. Jones here in Norvell on senior issues here. So to me, he doesn't even care for seniors, okay, which a lot of us vote. So he definitely will not get my vote, okay, after trying to raise a senior issue with him, okay. I get his emails periodically, but it's really targeted for certain groups here. It is not for the whole, and I think your approach is much more encompassing, and I'm wishing you all the best, and thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your call. And yeah, I do think that Mondaire has shown to be aloof and unconcerned with many of the local issues for many groups. I think his main concern is to make sure he doesn't offend leaders in the Hasidic community so that he will get their vote in November, a vote he doesn't even need to win. So I agree that I don't think he has been very focused on local issues. I think a lot of moderate Democrats are being left out of this petitioning process. So this is one way that we can take the matter into our own hands and ensure that we have a choice in the primary. You can go to my website, mikesinthehouse.com. That's mikesinthehouse.com with an S. My petition, the buttons for the petitions are right there. If you don't have a lot of time, you can use the easy petition. It's a petition you can print out, quickly cross-witness with one other Democrat, hopefully a family member or a friend, and drop it in the mail. There's so much at stake here that we need to try as best we can to get a representative that will go down to Washington, that is not afraid to address these issues and to bring these issues to the attention of national leaders, because they need to know what's going on up here. If we refuse to talk about it, then it's just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse. I do not subscribe to this unwritten rule that you cannot talk about the issues that arise from this very acute clash of cultures between the Hasidic community and the secular community. We've got to talk about it. We have a right of free speech under the First Amendment of the Constitution. We need to exercise that right or risk losing it. Hello, these are instructions for use of the easy petition. Okay. First thing you want to do is you want to print out the easy petition, which will fit on one sheet of regular size 8.5 by 11 paper. Once you've got the petition signed out, then you want to find a fellow Democrat, be it a spouse or a family member or a neighbor or a friend, and get together with them in the same location. Once you're together, you want to lay the easy petition out between you, sitting across from each other, lay the petition out between you. And the easy petition essentially has two petitions, two half-page size petitions on one sheet of paper. Petitions do not have to be a full 8.5 by 11. They can be half a page. So I've got two petitions on the same sheet. One is right side up and the other is upside down. This way, when you're sitting across from each other, you've got the petition laid out between you, you will each be looking at a half-page size petition that is right side up from your perspective, okay? Once you've got it set up like that, the first thing you both want to do is you want to sign your signature on the line number 1, right beneath where it says signature of voter. So let's go ahead and do that. We both sign our petition on line 1, right beneath where it says signature of voter. Okay, once you've signed, then you want to fill in your address just to the right of your signature on the same line. So let's fill in our address. Okay, and you can leave the town's slot empty. We'll fill that in. So now we both signed, we both put in our address. At this point, you simply want to take the easy petition, rotate it 180 degrees. So now you're looking, each of you are looking at the petition that the other one signed. And at this point, you both want to go ahead and sign on the line where it says signature of witness, which is in the lower right-hand corner of the petition. So we both go ahead and sign the witness statement. Then fill in the date. Put in today's date, which is March 20th. All right. Now, once both of you have signed the petition and witnessed each other's signature, you're done. Simply take the petition, you will fold it up, put it in a regular size envelope, and drop it in the mail to Mike Parietti, 6 Spook Rock Road, SUFFERN, New York, 10901. And that address is also on the website if you want to double check it, right? Thank you very much for your help.